So my first concern is that I open it and I can see loose parts in the box, nuts and bolts and screws. Not real happy about that, but hopefully everything that's supposed to be in here is in here, but we'll see how it goes. And here's the fundamental problem. Looks like the package that had all the nuts and bolts and screws in it has busted open. And hopefully everything is here, and I just have to kind of rearrange it all. This is it in terms of instructions. It's just a whole bunch of parts and widgets, and we'll see how it goes. Interesting, they actually give you a couple wrenches, which I didn't really need, but I guess, okay, I'll take anything they want to hand out for free. And it looks like all the parts that are rolling around were stored in here, so I think they're the small nuts and bolts and maybe some washers, but I'm going to try and figure out if everything's here before I start putting this thing together. So those are all of the loose parts. The hex bolts and 8 washers and 8 lock washers and 6 feet seem to be the right number. I got 2 other washers sitting there. I'm not quite sure what they're going to be for yet, but hopefully that'll become apparent as we start figuring this out. I took the plastic off of all of the bars, and unfortunately none of them have any markings on them, so it's going to just be figuring out which one goes with which based on physical appearance as compared to the picture, which could be a challenge, but hopefully you can figure it out. It looks like they're all in sets of 2, so hopefully it'll make sense as we move forward. I'm working on step 1. This is the one side of the base, and then another side will look just like this. These are 3 pieces that all kind of lined up. I stuck the longest screw through here just to get it aligned, and then I look closer at the directions, and this is where the carriage bolts go. That little square nut's going to fit in there, and then you just tighten the bolt in the back. They did provide 2 wrenches, but I'm going to go ahead and use my sockets because I think that'll work a little easier for me. So we'll see where this goes from here. This is not hard with 2 hands, but with 1 hand it's a little tricky. The crossbar has screws in the bottom because that's where the little feet are going to go. So when I try and drop this other piece over the top of it, it's a little tricky because it wants to rock. But it fits on like so. No big deal. And this piece slides up against it. The squares are the squares because you'll need carriage bolts, and the carriage bolts go into the square side and the nuts go back on the other side. So that's where we're going from here. By hanging it over the bench, it's just a little easier to get the bolts tightened up back. Not constantly knocking against the body. So we got the 2 feet. I'm going to guess the next thing we got to do is put little rubber feet on the bottom, but we'll see. So this is the bottom of that base. You see they got these little nuts on each of the corners. That's where we're going to put the little rubber feet. And little rubber foot, you know, it's got the double nuts on it. So one is for making the height adjustment and then locking it in place so it won't slide around once you get it the way you want. It's all leveled off. So I'm not going to screw these in too far because that's all part of the leveling process. And I'm going to repeat that 5 more times. So we got 2 bases that can stand. So the next step is to just get the upper posts on the base. And I think it's pretty obvious how these go together. They just slip in, and you see where the holes align. They got to be put where you can put the nuts in the back. So I don't think we can mess this up. It's pretty straightforward. Got to put the bolts in. So we used a couple of the carriage bolts with a lock washer and a regular washer, and they just fit around on the back right here, like so. And these do slide in pretty easily by hand, so that's the good news. Now that we have the two towers assembled, it's definitely time to move this operation to its final location. So these are the kayaks that I'm trying to store and get out of my way. The blue one over there, that's where this rack is going to go. I'm tired of tripping over these things, and we've been rearranging the basement, trying to make the best of it. But until we get these up on a shelf, they're just a pain. So I'm going to move kayaks around, and then I'm going to put the racks over there where the blue kayak is. So they're going to sit something like that, probably further apart. I don't know. Got to set the crossbars. Those are the crossbars that's left, and those are the actual padded racks where the kayaks are going to sit. So not too many things to go, but still seem to have a lot of nuts and bolts and brackets. So we'll see how this all works out. These three pieces are all going to be one piece, all assembled together. So I'm going to do that here on the bench and then take it over and put it in between the posts. So when you get it together, it'll be 6 feet long. I don't see any way to mess up putting this together either, because there's just only one place where you can put the holes that'll line up with the nuts that are built into the unit. Kind of just see if I can pop this apart. Again, one-handed it doesn't work at all. Just slide it together like so. So the trick is that crossbar, to me, if I look at this, looks like it's going to be installed right at the seam of the two rising posts. And I think I found the one and only shipping problem as a result of that package being burst open. I seem to be missing one washer, but I have a feeling that somewhere over there in that cabinet, I'm going to find a washer that'll do the job. So I don't think we have a problem in it today. So the counterfeit washer is silver, so I'll always know that they gypped me out of one washer. But other than that, I think we got everything we need to finish this project. So I'm at the problem part of the project where I have to figure out how to try and hold this in place while I put the bolts in. It's 6 feet long, and it's not overwhelming, but trying to hold it from one end and keep it level while you're putting the bolts in can be problematic. So I could either call for my wife, which usually works out badly for both of us, or I bring in my trusty roller adjustable height and set it so that it'll take the weight of this thing on one end while I tighten it up on the other end. So a little stand holding it up on one end, take and slide this to the one. There's two. Got our washer and our nut. Just want to get it started. And of course, I forgot I need to put this plate on here. You want to film so don't say anything you'll regret later.
Oh,
Out of the way.
do you have the directions with this?
Yeah. Of course, I'm following directions to the letter of the law. Huh?
That came in here.
Yeah, it was either that or you. You know how that works out. again forgot the plate. So next, I'm going to play with all the feet, get them all leveled up, and then I got to mount the brackets that hold the kayaks on the rack. Not sure why that one seems to want to be up in the air a little bit, but we'll see how it goes at the final adjustment once all the weight is on the front. So full disclosure, while taking the arms out of the plastic, look what fell loose. So they didn't jip me out of a washer after all. So I've encountered my first maybe screw up, don't know yet. These 6 pieces here were sitting in there, and I figured I'd get to them sooner or later in the instructions, and apparently I missed them. These are supposed to go down where the feet attach, and they call them anchor bolts. But I'm putting this on concrete, so I don't plan on bolting this to anything, so hopefully that's not going to be a problem. Let's see how it goes, because I mean, I could put them on, but I don't see how they're going to do anything for me. So we'll see what happens. So on a further reading of the instructions, they recommend that you use these to attach it to the ground, but obviously I'm not doing that, so I think these are going to remain right where they are in my workshop and not attached unless I see some reason to do so later. So now we move on to attaching these things to the frame, and I think the trick here is going to be to figure out the proper height for where these things belong. So it may not be as difficult as I thought. It says you attach the lower one to the lowest possible holes and the upper one to the highest possible holes, so that's my plan. We got these long bolts to do that. No reinforcing plates or anything like that. Washer on each side. 2 per. Let's see how it goes. And with that, we're basically done. It's 5 minutes to 12. Been at this since about 10:30. It's time for lunch. We'll come back later. We'll put some kayaks on, double check everything's tight, and we should be good to go. So about an hour and a half to put the whole thing together. One little mess up about those anchor bolts, but I don't really see needing them anyway. So that's where we're at. So lunch is over. Gotten to that point where I went through and I just double checked all the tightening. Now it's time to see if we can get these 2 kayaks into this rack. That was easy enough. Would have been easier with 2 people, but there it is. Done and done. Oh, and since this is going to be on YouTube, I don't care if you like or subscribe. Neatly tucked out of the way.